I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is time to talk with Real Salt Lake coach Pablo Mastroeni. Pablo, getting ready for a trip to Texas. I'm intrigued the way this season has gone, and I'm intrigued by something you've mentioned a few times we've been on the air. We've been talking this morning about how do you go from good to great. RSL sitting in a playoff spot. RSL has a winning record. We're a third of the way in. A lot of nice people in the national media are saying nice things about you. You're clearly a good team, but you lost to Vancouver. You lost to Miami. You haven't hoisted a trophy in a while, so you're not a great team. When you talk about that with your staff, what are the next couple of boxes you want to check as you try to move the team from good to great?
Well, I think consistency is important, and I think the only way you get to great is being consistent. And I talk about it all the time. It's really Monday through Friday. It's about winning the games, and more importantly, I think it's about learning from each game. Right? I don't think we don't get low when we don't win. We don't get high when we do win. It's really about the consistency of improvement from week to week and being a better version of ourselves than we were the previous game. So I think that's a starting point. And then obviously, like you said, you got to raise the trophy at some point. I think what makes it really difficult now versus in years past is the amount of teams and that are in this league. And in our case, the West is just it's a beast. I think we'd be somewhere like third or fourth maybe third in the East if we were in that conference. But it's a battle, so it's not easy. And I don't know if you saw the Champions Leagues. There's two Mexican teams in the finals.
I did.
So it's a bit daunting. But I think when you look at it that big, and that's why I don't think it ever benefits you to think that big until you're doing all the little things right. I think it's easier to digest. It's easier to work through the week-to-week work, to be consistently performing at a high level so that the results go in your favor. And then, of our three losses, two of them have been admittedly refereed the wrong way. Two red cards and two of the three losses. So I feel really good about where we're at. I feel good about how we're learning as a group. And I feel that this year could be a special year.
What do Morgan Giavogi and Sanabria bring to the team? Those two guys, it's not like they got 20. You put someone who scores 20 goals, we all get it. But you talk about these guys in the middle of the field and the way they think. What is it that they're giving the team that excites you so much? Because I don't hear you talk about players that often the way you talk about those two guys.
Yeah, I just think that their soccer understanding is extremely, extremely high. And what that usually does, and then technically they're elite, right? So two of the most technical players that we have. So when your soccer understanding is really, really high, they understand how to work with other players, right? So they're always thinking one step ahead. They're always an option after they pass the ball. They're always finding players in difficult positions to be able to break defenses down. So I just think that, and I think that's why, great players are really expensive to get on board. They're just because they're not only great players for themselves and what they do on an individual perspective, and this is what I kind of explain to ownership is Morgan Giavogi might not get the 20 goals this year, but I'll tell you what, we're going to be a better attacking team if he's on the field because he creates the type of synergy and he's almost like the jockey on the horse. He's always thinking about the next play. And when you have younger players on the field that might not be thinking two steps ahead, he will facilitate the decisions for them. But also when you have these guys in training every single day, they start to leach their soccer brain into the group. And now you see guys like Gozo and Aiden really thinking at a much higher level that we couldn't do as a coach because it's hard to go out in the field and show them what to do every day.
There's a World Cup coming up, and there are a lot of people worried the United States isn't going to do well. And if the United States, and you never know, so maybe they will, maybe they won't, but if they don't do well, I'm sure I'm going to hear this line of thinking, well, when the U.S. gets their best athletes playing soccer, and I'm always like, no, the U.S. never gets out-athleted in a game. It goes back to what you talk about. And can you explain what you want out of somebody with technical ability? Because to me, that often means, can you make the ball do what you want it to do? Do you hit it, or they call it the right weight or the right pace? Can you curve it left to right to left, bend it around somebody, a goalkeeper, a defender, whatever? Because the elite players, it's almost like magic wand territory. You see these balls just whipped in accurately. It's phenomenal. And to me, that's technical ability. Do you want more than just that when you say that?
Yeah, yes. And I'll go a few steps behind where you just described, which was the actual execution of the pass or the cross or the shot. I'm going to go as far as understanding before they receive the ball, they are scanning the field. So they know where they are in relationship to their teammates and their opponents. So that's first. If you don't know where you are, it's a good chance you don't know where you're going when you receive it. So the highest level players understand space and time in relationship to their teammates and their opponents. The second part of that is how they receive the ball. What surface do they receive it? Do they receive it with their, first touch going forward? Are they touching it sideways into a space? So then once they know where they're going, then they know exactly where to manipulate the ball with their first touch. And then the last part is having scan and understand where you're going, is executing the weight of the pass, the arc of the shot or cross or pass, and understanding where I have to play this ball in relation. If my teammate's running into space, understanding again space and time is how far out in front of him do I have to pass this ball given the space that he has. So all these things are, we talk about technique, it's all of those things. And those things are done in, some of those in milliseconds, some of those in seconds. But the greatest players in the world are basically scanning and making these, formulating these equations, solving these equations in their heads before you actually see it on the field.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Order for Jennifer C.
Is this my double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double whip, double sleeve?
Yeah. Can you handle that much caffeine?
Did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, really? That's great.
Seriously, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, you just said that.
Did you say I just said that?
Yeah, I'm cutting you off.
I can't have any more? Why not?
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Dedication isn't born in the light of day. It's carved in the quiet hours before the world blinks awake. At Boar's Head, we rise with a mission to deliver craftsmanship worthy of your table. A slice of something special folded into every moment worth savoring. Because dedication means delivering only the very best. Boar's Head, committed to craft since 1905.
When I lost my sight, I found a way to win.
Bank of America champions blind soccer player and coach Antoine Craig, and everyone who dares to ask, what would you like the power to do? Bank of America, proud to be the official bank of FIFA World Cup 2026. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
You mentioned ownership, and I think the real magic overlooked here, and you've been in pro sports, and you've been in different organizations, so you can speak to this. New ownership comes in, and this happens in radio and TV too. This is, whatever your business is, you've probably seen this. New ownership comes in, and they want to do things their way and on their people, and often it means taking everything back down to the ground floor and building it up again. And the problem in the organization, not to flatter you while you're sitting there, it wasn't the coaching. You had taken teams pick 13th and gotten them to 7th and squeezed stuff out of guys. And the front office had found guys that nobody else wanted. You found them in the draft. They found them after Portland let Caliscan go. They drafted a Meccanelli out of Cornell. Found a goalkeeper. I don't even know how, but he's out of contract. He's a free agent. Didn't have to pay anything to get him, just bring him in. They did some great bargain basement shopping. The last thing ownership needed to do was pull apart the pieces that were already in place. And they decided to come in and they thought, what we need to do? We need to spend money and write checks. And Sanabria comes in and Giavogi comes in, the guys we just talked about. But the one thing that hangs over this, and you mentioned the Champions League, people in the U.S. won't really think the teams in the U.S. are good until we see them beat Mexico. Nobody really believed in the national team until the World Cup team you were on in 2002. They beat Mexico in the World Cup on a neutral field in Asia. Okay, they must be good. So now the league needs to do that, but as long as you have a salary cap, as long as Mexico gets to spend whatever in Liga MX, and you have a salary cap, so you have to find a kid in college like Solans and start him as your goal scorer. And then people are like, why doesn't he finish more chances? I'm like, well, I don't know. He's playing at UCLA last year. It's a little bit of a step up. Maybe he needs more than 10 games to adjust, So as long as you have the salary cap and you have to find a Brazilian goalkeeper who's out of contract and you have to take the kid that Portland didn't want, and then you have injuries, so you got to take a 6'6" guy who, honestly, you don't even see 6'6" guys in the back line. I can't believe he's playing at this level. But you win with him. People can say whatever they want. You're winning with him. But that's not going to help you beat Mexico or whoever else. How do you solve that problem? Take your big view of the sport, because that's what fans are paying money to see. When the teams from Mexico come in for Leagues Cup, they want to see you beat them again and again and again.
Yeah, well, I would say, and again, I think just with this tournament that just took place, I think we have an advantage having the Leagues Cup here in the United States. I think they're playing away games, and you saw, the Toluca game. Yeah. I mean, that looked like it was insane, the amount of passion and energy that was in that stadium, and teams vibe off that, right? So we inherently have an advantage playing our games here at home, and so I think. I think, and there's been obviously, MLS teams that have won the Leagues Cup. So I back ourselves, given what you said is like, and I think that's what makes us unique is we're trying to find, we're developing young players, we're developing young men, in a way that, and I think this year was a huge step forward as far as the recruitment was concerned. I think we did a fantastic job as a club of adhering to, the values of our ownership, the values of the club, the things that we believe in, and actually getting some real quality people and players. And I think we can be successful and sustain it. I think we have a good blueprint for what works, what doesn't. We've made some decisions in the past with very, like what you're saying, spending a lot of money on certain players, but they weren't necessarily the best people, or they didn't fit in the locker room well. So we were never, ever able to get the most out of them, right? So these guys that we've brought in, we've identified, they're aligned with us on the field, off the field, and what they're doing to the group that we currently have, because they're cut from the same cloth. They're all hard workers. They're all growers. They're all learners. Is that we're getting like a synergistic effect to the group, a compounded effect to the group. So I think we can. It's not so much about how much money you spend. It's really about the fit of the player. And there is a certain caliber of player that you must have. But I feel like like we just talked about, Sanabria and Morgan Gilavogi, what they've done and Stein as well. And what those three have done to help Noel Caliscan, Luna, Gozo, Solans, this is sustainable, right? And it's not going to always be about the money. So, I think, but you're right. I think, MLS teams have to beat Mexican teams, and the Leagues Cup provides a great opportunity. But I just feel like because we don't do everything like the rest of the teams in the league, it doesn't mean that we can't get there. We just have to prove that we can get there, and I think that's what we were alluding to earlier.
You've got another stretch here of 4 games coming in pretty quick succession here. I think it's 4 games over 15 or 16 days. And then you hit the World Cup break. So going back to your days at North Carolina State, Pablo, it feels like midterms right now. You're playing a lot of teams that are either just barely in front of you or just barely behind you in the standings. Do you think these games, 2 home, 2 away, so I like the way that kind of balances out, does this give you a good look at where you really fit in the league? I mean, if you dominate this group, then I would say you're in the top tier of the league. Maybe you're to the bottom of the top tier, but you're in the top tier of the league. Obviously, if you had a string of bad results, we'd have to reevaluate that a little lower. But it does feel to me like a midterm. Do you feel the same way? Because you're classic one game at a time guy, and I might be, walking into a door here.
No, well, again, I think everyone on the outside can frame it however they want. I just know how I have to, how I have to communicate with the players. I don't say this, hey guys, we have to win X amount of games. I'm saying, guys, these are the things from last game that weren't good enough that we have to get better in the Dallas game. And that's it. And again, my job as a coach is to make sure I take all the pressure off those guys so they can play free. So it's from a fan's perspective and even from, I think a coaching front office perspective, I think, that's a good assessment. It'll give us enough data, enough performances to kind of see where we're at, and more importantly, what we need to do better moving forward. And I think that's the way we are as a group, and we'll find a way to maximize the output of every player on this team, and hopefully those performances lead to continued good results, especially here at home, which has been nice. But again, we start off this week tomorrow against a tough Dallas team away from home. But like I said, because we're so process oriented, I feel really good about every game. I don't feel like we're ever underprepared, ever, punching above our weight. I feel like we're in a really good headspace, and I feel it on the training field every day. I feel it in the coach's office every day. And I think for me, that's a really important barometer to have, and its feel, and not so much the other stuff.
Pablo, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for giving us a few minutes, and good luck on the road this weekend.
Thanks, DJ. Talk to you later.
All right, there's Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, and you'll hear that Dallas game 6:30 pregame at 5:30 on 97.5 The Zone Saturday night. And then they come home for 3 games in a week. 2 of them at home and then off to Minnesota, and then the World Cup break. It'll be a long break. They'll be off for like 6-7 weeks there.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on Carvana. Delivery fees may apply.
Ever walk past a place for rent and wish you could just take a peek inside? Maybe even explore the layout. Envision the natural light streaming through the windows. Or plan where your vinyl record collection would go. At Apartments.com, you can. With tools like their 3D virtual tours, you can see the exact unit you could be living in. Really envision yourself in your new home with Apartments.com. The place to find a place.